like to tune it.
So, what is your name? How old are you? Where'd you grow up?
My name is Chris Michaels. I am 21 years old and I grew up in Astoria, Queens. Hobbies as a kid, video games, got into guitar. Pretty much those two things were my thing. Video games, yeah, I played a lot of video games with like my mom. My dad, not so much. But guitar was more with my uncle because he was a musician.
Yeah, can you tell me about your dad?
My dad he was a good guy. He was a construction worker, but he had like a drinking problem. So there was that. He had a good heart, but he had a lot of stress to deal with. Well, my dad had a pretty bad drinking problem. Like, there were some nights where it would just be like constant bickering with my mom about it. There was one like particular night that was pretty crazy for me. I was like 8 or 9 and I hear like a thud from my room. I hear a loud thud and it was like late at night. I got up to see what it was and it was just my dad like on the floor and there was like a pool of blood. He was so drunk that night that he passed out and banged his head on the edge of a night table and he had to go to like the ER. He had to get stitches. Had like a huge black eye for like weeks. That was one of like the most significant like memories I have of that.
Yeah. How did your mom deal with that?
It was just a lot of arguing. Just a lot of like bickering back and forth. He ended up going to like rehabilitation for it for a while and things were pretty well off after that, but there were still some moments because he was still like struggling with that.
Tell me about the time like closer to his passing.
You know, I can't even because things were like so normal at that point. Like, I remember he ended up getting like kind of pill addicted, I would say. Like after he got my dad was an overweight guy, so he got like the gastric bypass surgery, and after that they had to put him on medications. He couldn't drink as much, but he started like taking those meds, and that started fucking with his head, and that just led to even more arguing. So it was kind of just like the same thing, like nonstop, just arguing about that kind of stuff now.
And how old were you?
I'd say I was about like 11, 12.
Oh, I fucked that up.
Why do you like guitar so much, huh?
It's fun, it's relaxing, it's just something I enjoy.
Can you tell me about the day that he passed?
Yeah, it was very bizarre because I got up, I walked past my dad, and he was just like in bed, eyes closed, mouth open. I just thought he was like snoring or whatever. So I go to the kitchen, get some water, go back, and I like went back to my room thinking nothing was wrong at all. So then I went back to the room just to like try waking him up because my mom was calling. She was in the hospital at the time. So she was calling, asking how he was doing, so I tried putting him on the phone, but when I was like pushing him, he wouldn't wake up. So then I had to like go back to like the phone and be like, "Mommy, he's not waking up." And it was just like crazy from there on. And then like the fire department had to come in because the door was locked. I couldn't reach the lock because I was so short at the time. They had to like kick the door open, take him out. Just like insane.
That's crazy. Why was your mom in the hospital?
Because my mom at the time, she was fighting colon cancer. So she had like a whole issue with that. And she was in the hospital. And that's why she was there.
Where was your sister?
My sister was also, you know, she was still young. She was going to high school and we shared a room at the time. So she was in our room. And then I told her about that. And she was like panicked. She was freaking out, crying hysterically.
She was in the room with you? She was in the apartment?
Yeah. And I didn't really have like much of a reaction to it because like I was so young, I didn't even know how to respond to it. I kind of just shut myself off and started playing video games.
What game, do you remember?
I actually do. It was Super Smash Bros. Brawl on the Nintendo Wii, because that had just come out and I was so hyped. But that's aside from the point.
Yeah. You were playing guitar at that time?
No, I didn't pick up guitar yet. Oh my god, it's been so long.
You're still pretty good, dude. Yo, tell me about your tattoos, man.
What?
Tell me all about your tattoos, bro.
Give me 1 second. So I got this tattoo for my father because my father he was in the Navy before and he had Snoopy as his like Navy tattoo. And Snoopy had like a little Navy cap on and I wanted to get something similar to that to represent him and kind of as like a tribute. So I got like just a bulldog with a Navy cap. This one I got while I was in Texas. This one I got in Louisiana. This was for my mother. It's just a generic mom heart because, you know, she's important to me. She would constantly be going back and forth to the hospital for chemotherapy, having to always do that treatment. And it was really hard on her because it would make her like vomit. She would start losing her hair. And it's like a very depressing thing in general. So that fucked with her a lot mentally. But she like got through it like to the end. And she like did her best to take care of me and my sister in our times of need. Mm-hmm.
How old were you around that time that she started getting really sick?
It's in high school, so probably like 14.
Do you have any specific memories of her? Like, what's your best memory with her around the time that she was kind of sick?
For Christmas, when she got me like my first guitar, and that was just something that I'd wanted for so long at the time. I was in middle school, and when she actually like went out after like so long like begging her that I really wanted it, she like went out of her way. And then at the time I didn't really think much of it, but like looking back on it now, it's like so meaningful that she actually took time out, like took the money and put it towards something like that. Shortly, like a few months after my grandmother died, my great-grandmother passed away. So that was like harder for her to deal with too, because she had to deal with that mentality of her mom passing away.
How long were you living alone?
Say about like 3 months. There was one point where she came back from the hospital once and then she seemed totally healthy, totally fine. But then shortly thereafter, she just went back and wasn't getting any better.
Were you there when she went back to the hospital?
Yeah.
What had happened?
She just started like vomiting profusely one day, and she was just like, I have to go back to the hospital. This is terrible. And I was like, oh, no. I remember like one of her final days, like she had just gotten surgery and she was in the hospital, and me, my uncle, my sister, we went to visit her. She had like this huge like hole in her head. Her head was like shaved, and she was like just slurring when she was trying to speak. It was like she wasn't even her at that point. So that was just like crazy to see, and it was like surreal almost, because like I lost my dad like a few years before. My grandmother had also passed away, and just like having to see that, like your own mother in a situation like that, is kind of traumatizing.
Of course.
Then I just found out one day that she like passed away at the hospital randomly. I remember you were at my house that day when I found out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to tell me about that day, what you remember from that day.
I remember I had you over, you spent the night at my place, and I remember waking up and my aunt and uncle came like into the house. They woke us up. They were like, Christopher, your mom passed away. And I was like, what? Again, that kind of just like blew me away, like kind of just tore apart my world, because my dad passed away, my mom passed away, felt like I had no one. It's pretty surreal. Like, they were talking about how they were gonna have a wake and everything, and I didn't even go because like all the other ones I went to were just so like upsetting and depressing that I didn't want to like go through that again.
Do you think not going made you feel better? Or do you think, looking back on it, do you wish you had gone? Or what are your feelings towards that?
I mean, yeah, I kind of wish I would have gone to that. I would have definitely felt better in my conscience. And like looking back on it, I wish I was like more aware, but I was so young and I was like a teenage boy. I was a dick. I was an idiot. So I wasn't thinking about like my mom's feelings about everything at the time. So I was kind of just being a stupid teenage boy with like not a lot of empathy. So looking back on that, I wish I was just more there for her, really.
Do you believe you should have been there for her when she was sick?
A bit more than I was, yes.
Did she ever reach out to you to be there for her?
I mean, not really, because she, like, most of her time is just spent on her laptop on Facebook, just like in her room, or I had the family computer in my room, so she was in there a lot too. But I don't know, I just feel like there was more I could have done to like be present.
Yeah. But you do understand that you were a teenage kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You tell me about your uncle, Uncle Nick, and his passing.
Well, he was a good guy. When my family was like still around, he was a great guy. He was one of my role models for picking up guitar, because when I first got it, he would come into my room, he would like show me what he knew about the guitar and all the songs he could play, and it was awesome.
Mm.
So we had like a relationship like that. He showed me his music studio that he used to run, and he even like gave me one of my other guitars that I still have now. He had like a bit of like a stoic look to him, but he was still a great guy. Throughout the years, his like mental health started declining. He ended up getting dementia, and that kind of just ate away at him until he eventually passed last year. But after my parents like passed away, like him and my aunt kind of just went berserk on me and my sister. So they kind of just became our enemies almost. So I felt a lot for him, because I know my aunt was kind of crazy. She kind of made him do things he didn't want to do.
Can you tell me about that? How your Aunt Laura went crazy on you and stuff?
Yeah, after my mom passed away, they kind of started off being like helpful to us. They moved me and my sister into our grandparents' apartment, and she was kind of helpful with that. But then like looking back on it, I could tell she kind of just wanted to like rent out the upper space, because it would be a waste of like, property. So after that, she kind of just, after a few months, started getting more pushy on me and my sister to get out of the place, and my grandfather as well, who was in his like mid-80s, like to get out of this place, because we weren't paying a lot in rent for her, and she needed or she wanted more money. Me and my sister were still in high school at the time, so we didn't really have the funds to actually go to a better place or do what we wanted, so we kind of had to just stick it through with that. But every day, like, my aunt would just come over with my uncle, and it would just be like yelling about some stupid shit, like I didn't make my bed, or like, I don't know, just I didn't wash the dishes. So it would be a lot of just her bickering about that as a means of trying to like push me out more. I remember like one of the first days after my mom passed away, I was like walking with her to the bank, and she asked me if I ever considered like joining the military or anything, like, one-on-one conversation. And I'm like, okay, you're trying to rub me out. That's what this is, huh? You're trying to get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I was like 14, and I was like, no, I don't want to join the military. Thank you, though.
So, that was your old house?
Yeah, that was my old place.
And where was that exactly?
That was literally 3 blocks away from the apartment I'm in right now.
Were you there last year? About exactly a year ago. Did you live there?
Yeah, I was there a year ago.
Alright, so tell me about that, why you had to ascend to 2 blocks away.
Well, after deciding I didn't want to dorm at college, I decided to go back to my old place.
Where did you go to college?
Went to SUNY Purchase College.
Oh shit.
Great place, full of creative people. And I decided I didn't want to dorm there anymore, so I decided to move back to my old place. And things started off pretty well. I got a job at a restaurant. I was doing my own thing, just biding time until I could transfer to the new college that I'm currently in now, and keep doing that. However, my grandfather had passed. I got a call from my sister. She was the one who told me that my grandfather had passed. Everyone else tried to like hide it from me for some reason. But yeah, I found out through her, and from there on I was just living in an empty apartment by myself that used to be my grandparents' place. It was like 19, 20 at my age, and I didn't have much work experience, so finding a job that would pay her like minimum rent she was offering me it was like $1,500 a month for a completely like unrenovated apartment that just had like a lot of problems to it. And she was trying to charge me that much, like on top of the electric bill that I would have to pay and all my other like monthly expenses. It was a 2-bedroom place, but when I tried to make a compromise, asking if she would let me have a roommate to split the rent, she just shot that down because she wanted me out. And when I told her I wouldn't do it, I just tried like going through and trying to live my life past the deadline she offered me. But when I did that, I would come home after like a day of work and school, because I started doing full-time work and college full-time at the same time. So some random days when I'd come home from school at like 10 p.m., I would try opening the door to the apartment and she would have locked it from the inside while I was out. And I would have to like do crazy things, like either climb through the window and like let myself in that way, or she like learned I was doing that too, so she locked the window from the inside. There was one night where I had to call a locksmith at like 12 in the morning and drop $400 to get a new door handle, like a lock and everything. So it was at that point where I realized that there's better out there, and so I'm here now.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it is
Holy
crazy.
shit. Alright, so what is your present circumstance?
Currently, I'm working full-time for a third-party company at a New York Presbyterian
Hospital?
hospital, yes,
In Manhattan?
in Manhattan, that hospital. I go to college full-time at Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan, and things are a lot better now. I have like a lovely girlfriend. I'm like exploring my hobbies and interests. I'm making good money. Things are really good now.
Hey, that was good, man. That was really good.
I just got this one today. This is just something else. It doesn't have anything to do with my family, but it's like a Rush reference, and it's representative of the divide between man and society, which I think is pretty unique and cool.
Can you play me some Rush?
I could play you some Rush. How's it go? No, wait, hang on.
That's okay.
I could play you other Rush.